computer. Okay, so I'm going to put up our agenda so everyone can remind themselves. Let's see. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Can everyone see that? So I'll just show basically some of the things to remind yourself, but let's start off by welcoming everybody to the December 7th, 2023 Environment Committee meeting. And it's been a few months since we were together. We've been busy fall, I guess. Anyway, here we are now. We have a whole bunch of items that I'd like to visit. So first, let's start with the itinerary from May 18th. And I sent that to you for all you to review. If anyone has any questions, please say them now. Otherwise, let's move to accept the minutes. Anybody have any comments? Okay. Do I have somebody to move to accept the minutes,
please? I move we accept the minutes.
Okay. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ivar. Okay. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand. Excellent. Okay, we've accepted our minutes. Okay, let's move in. We'll just move through these. Some of these topics are pretty quick, but I just wanted to share a very big success story, at least from my perspective, and that is that the Montgomery County banned the gas-powered leaf blowers, which will start in July 25, which is like a month and a half, a year and a half away, but this is like a huge win for everybody because we all live in Montgomery County, not just Somerset. So hopefully this is going to be a big quality of life improvement for everybody. So I'm really excited.
Is this a full ban, or are there various like carve outs, to
No, it's a complete ban in Montgomery County. There is a carve out. You might be right about that, actually, and I have forgotten. There might be for farms. It's not doesn't apply to farms.
That's usually the case. So it's not like the half-ass one like town of Chevy Chase did, which that didn't count during fall.
Correct. Yeah. So they're gonna ban the sale of these machines starting next July 24, and then the ban of the actual machines being used is the following year, July. So that's really huge success. I feel like we are very much a part of that. Kudos to all of us here. And I've been working with a bunch of other colleagues in the county who have pushed it also. Okay, next item. Anyone else have any comments more? Okay. The solar panels have now been installed on the town hall roof. You might have seen an article that I wrote in the town journal. Very exciting. I'm not sure whether it's actually online yet, but they're waiting for like permitting to finish up, according to Matt. But there's about 30 or so panels. It should accommodate about 80 to 90% of the 80% of the electrical usage for the town hall and also for the garage, which is used by the maintenance crew. So that's great. We're on our way to being more and more carbon neutral. And I've already talked to Matt about continuing to push to do the same for the pool house. All the work has been done for that. All we need to do is just reactivate the town council to pass a vote. And Matt and I have talked about, well, let's get the town hall up and running and looking good. And hopefully we can start that project next summer or maybe even earlier. So he said that we have the funding to do that. So, we've already made the recommendations. We don't need to do anything further, but I just wanted to share that, that update. And just to remind you, only the part of the roof that's closest to you when you approach the building will be used. They won't be able to put the solar panels on the entire roof, only like 30% on the close side. I've been on the roof with the solar engineer, and he determined that the sun, it's appropriate to put the panels only on that side because the far side is too occluded by the trees. So, and that would, I think he said about 20 to 25% of the electricity used by the pool to heat it and other stuff would be accommodated by this installation. It's a bigger installation than the town. I don't know how many panels it is offhand, but it's definitely, well, we know that the town pool saps more energy than any other thing in the town. It's like to the tune of like $100,000 a year in electrical bills. So this is a big dent into that.
So it's 25% of the annual usage, even though it's not in use or 8 months of the year?
Well, the solar panels will be used all
I
year
understand
long.
that. I'm just saying the total generation throughout the year.
Oh yeah, yes, that's correct. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Does it generate the SRECs that private
Yes,
customers get?
the very expensive ones we get like about I want to
400
say
per megawatt.
400.
I think it's that.
Yeah,
That's what we get.
Yeah, that's what we'll get too. So it's a pretty substantial return on the investment in that respect. Yeah. And then as we were speaking about the LED lights, they have completed the first third. They're doing this in 3 staunches. So for some reason, that's the way Matt wanted to organize it. So we have finished, I believe, the first staunch, which is like Cumberland and Dorset Avenue, plus or minus something else maybe. But I personally am very, very pleased. I mean, I do a lot of walking at night. I love to have a night sky that's visible. And I think the lights are beautiful. They're perfect. You know, obviously they reduce our energy usage by about 80%. And the light is tiny bit dimmer, as Dave mentioned, but it's also more directed straight down. So it's not spreading out into the windows of our neighbors. So it's a big positive. And the other 2 phases will be happening within the year. I'm not sure whether, when that's going to start up next, but it's all going to be done within a 12-month period. Okay. Dave is going to maybe give us a little rundown about, let's see, I have something about pool composting and sulfuric acid disposal. Dave, do you want to speak? I guess that's 2 separate subjects.
And I have not done anything on the pool composting. I need to get on that and talk to the pool committee and such to at least get them to that to be on their thought process. So I'll take that on.
Okay.
But that we'll just have to hold off on until I get some traction on that. My proposal was that I think that the town could do a much better job of promoting and composting at the pool, since we do have a composting service and we are encouraging composting throughout the town. We should do the same thing at the pool. And a lot of people eat there and throw their food away, and so it would be nice to have a composting bin next to the recycling bin, such that people can do that, and then it can be collected and taken away by compost crew. That would be the desirable final result. But I'll work on that over the next several months.
Do you think, to that point, I mean, do you think it's worth our while tonight to just sort of make a formal recommendation to the town council to say we recommend that
I think that this is something that's in the purview of the pool committee. And I agree that it is something we could do, but I think we should probably run it by the pool committee before we make our recommendation.
Okay.
So they're not opposed to it. Otherwise, I don't want to catch them where we're proposing something on their area of jurisdiction.
Okay, that's thoughtful. Anybody else have any comments about that in particular? So you'll go to them and just sort of say, hey, we'd like to recommend to the town council this thing about composting. Are you guys, you want to have any input about that?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
Yep.
And then the next meeting, we can review again and make a vote.
Yep.
Okay.
And
Okay,
then
then
the
yes.
second item was about, and I don't know if people will remember or perhaps weren't on their last call where I asked this question a couple months ago. And so during the summer, there was a spill of pool chemicals into the creek, and it ended up with fish kills. There were dead fish downstream from the pool at Little Falls Branch. And I inquired about it, and I've just heard that they were responsive to it. And let me read you what I got from Matt today. He gave me a good response. So it happened on August 12th, and what the spillage was called muriatic acid, MURIATIC. And so here's what Matt said, is when we were notified of the issue, we immediately had a plumber come to reconfigure the pipes in the pump room underneath the pool house. Previously, the floor drains were connected to the storm drain. I guess as part of the configuration where the pool was first built, we changed it so the drains now go to the sewer to avoid going directly to the creek, which is standard practice of the pool is being built now, which would mitigate the issue in the future, even in the event of a spill and improper cleanup. I'm also arranging for a plumber to check out the pump room to make sure there are no other things that need to be improved. What happened in a sense is that guards spilled chemicals in the pool room when they were used to clean the pool. After they cleaned up what they could easily, they swept the rest down the drain, not knowing it connected to the storm drains.
Mhm.
I've stressed the importance of properly handling chemicals and cleanup procedures, and that environmental issues like this are not acceptable in our town. In addition, we are requiring a discharge report from the American Pool before the start of the next pool season. So it sounds like the town is on top of this, and Matt's on top of this. And they got fined actually $500,
Okay.
for the spill, because you're not supposed to put toxic chemicals into water systems, the water, in the
Mhm.
county. And actually the fine goes up if you do it again. So I think it's a good result, and I'm happy that the town is taking action, specifically the replumbing of the pump room. I suspect a lot of these old pools just, the water was, hey, the stream's right there, but just, why do we need to do anything separate than that? So I'm happy that they made that correction. So I think this is a good space.
That's good. Yeah, the muriatic acid is used like to prepare a surface before you pour concrete. It sort of cleans it in a way that makes the concrete adhere to the surface that it's next to. So yeah, that's like, yeah, thank you for that update. Now I understand fully what happened. Anyone have any input on that before we move on?
Nothing major. I have used muriatic acid to clean stains around my fireplace.
Okay.
The black smoke stains.
Oh, that, okay. I didn't know that actually does that. Interesting.
Yeah, your fingers fall off when you do it.
Your fingers fall off.
So it's a win some, lose some.
Okay. Getting back to the composting, let's jump ahead to the composting for all. We might have, I think most people were on this call when our neighbor, who's a 15-year-old, Ava Beckman, got on to talk about the importance of doing composting for everybody in the town. And we discussed, like, should we do an opt-in or opt-out program? But, there's so much information that says that, and Robin has also spoken, who should be on the call, I don't know why he's not, has spoken about how, the weight, the amount of trash that we produce can be significantly reduced if we remove the compost from the landfill. And that's like that's the major increasing element of landfill is compost. So I would like to, our group to consider this composting for the whole town. I know it's an expense to the town, but what are your thoughts about whether we should do a recommendation, and if we should, what should it say?
I'm all for it. Let me just remind everybody that we made such a recommendation maybe a year ago, maybe a little bit more, that we have an opt out rather than opt in. So everybody automatically would be enrolled in the composting unless they didn't want to be. And we were told that that was too expensive.
So you're saying that we actually did say that? Okay.
Yeah,
Let me
there was
just,
a resolution.
okay. Well,
I'm all for it.
yeah, I mean, you might recall that we have sent recommendations in duplicate at times when things haven't happened.
This was more than that. It was if we were to do that, it would cost us so many $1,000 every year.
Yeah, it was like to do the tune of like $40,000 or something like that is the
Yeah.
number that comes to mind. Anybody have any further thoughts about that? Ivar or Dave?
No, I think, we should be promoting that, and, and I understand that there is a cost impact, but I think that, it's something, if it's I think it's a priority, and I think that we should be recommending that for now. But anyway, I have something else I want to bring up about compost that I found out, but let's continue this conversation on the general point.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it also. We do it already through our service, and I have to say that the benefit is that we produce so much less trash. It goes into the green bucket, and that's full every week. But we have much less, trash in the regular trash can. So I think it's a good thing. I think people, once they sort of see the benefit, they'll get used to it.
Yeah. So it seems to me that we have a consensus that we should perhaps consider writing another recommendation saying that, and maybe in this recommendation, we can say, that, composting is a major, I just got an article that I read, is a major contribution to landfill, and reducing landfill can be, significantly reduced if we compost. So in light of that, we really feel like this is a very important step forward for our town becoming more sustainable. You know what I mean? As opposed to just sort of a standalone item, it's good to compost. And if we wrap it into a whole sustainable package, then maybe there'll be more power in the recommendation. Thoughts on that?
No arguments.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so shall we motion to recommend that we that everyone is given, how should we Anjali, do you want to add something? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure if this is the appropriate moment to say something, but I'd just like to say that although I'm personally all for composting, and our compost service is really wonderful because it actually gives us a report at the end of the year of how many pounds each individual household contributed. The eventual impact is only going to be as big as people who use it. And if you have a whole lot of people in this town who are just not going to be putting their potato peels in the container, you might be paying a whole lot, as Ralph said, without necessarily getting much return on it. And for these reasons, I think it might be worth trying to think of some kind of awareness campaign first, and to see how many people would actually use it and whether through that it could be cost effective or not. Because otherwise we'd be spending a whole lot of money and not necessarily, getting to people who want to use it at all. After all, they're not using it right now. And
Right.
the other thing is that when we think about the money that something like this is going to cost, there are other very similar things which our town is not doing, which other neighboring jurisdictions do. So, for instance, we don't separate our recyclables into plastic versus paper. And, we do for the compost, that's a big ticket item and it's free. But would it be cheaper maybe to have two separate bins for plastic and paper than to pay the compost service? So I just think it's worth weighing up these things and doing a little bit of public sounding. That's all.
Right. Okay, thank you for your comments. Typically, we have like public comments at the end, but since it's a small group tonight, I'm happy to let you have a few words. We spent a lot of time on recycling. That's a whole nother separate subject. But right now we have a company called Good Companies that they have combined recycling, and right now that's what we've decided to choose as the best way to recycle. But that's a very large subject that we've spent a lot of time on, just to tell you that. So, but as far as composting, I think the idea of having a more of awareness campaign is something that we could tie into our recommendation. So let's do that. Does anyone want to make a motion and just sort of give a go at making a recommendation? Anybody want to give it a go? Ralph, Dave, Ivar? Okay. I guess that's a no. So does that mean we don't want to give a recommendation, or we just don't want, we don't feel like we're not comfortable making the motion?
How about the Environment Committee recommends that the town council make composting available to every household. It is available to every household, so I'm not sure where I'm going with that. Part of that would be providing a bin to every, or a bucket to every family who does not have one.
That actually, that's to bring up a question and this is maybe I'm a little confused by, on that specific point that Ralph just brought up. Because I just learned that we've, finally through, social pressure and convincing, we got one of our neighbors, Paige Whitley, to think about doing composting. She hadn't been doing before. And when she contacted Compost Crew, they wanted her credit card.
Right.
Because, and she says, why, and because they, and as was confirmed by at least Sarah, that the town gives the bins for free.
And the service for free.
And the service for free. So why does the Compost Crew need a credit card from, and so that's something that's out there, someone at Compost Crew is interpreting.
Something's wrong with that. That's a mistake.
Right. So the bottom line is that, so the issue is the bins are available now for free.
Right.
So, what can we do to make the residents use that service?
Well, I think if I could just say something, once you give somebody a compost bucket, look, we compost much more thoroughly than we did in the very beginning. It's like a learned behavior. You know what I mean? You can do awareness campaign about the importance of it, but in the end, you have to practice it, and the only way you can practice it is if you have the bucket in front of you. You know what I mean? it's like, okay, you put the bucket out, it's empty for like a month. And, hey, someone in the family says, Mom, why aren't we using the bucket? We got this bin. Oh, honey, you don't have to throw it. You just throw it in the trash can. And they say, why don't we use the bucket? So that's sort of how this behavior starts. It's sort of gradual. And so I don't know. I feel like part of me feels like we should push the buckets into
Right.
everybody's.
So what is the cost implication? Is we would be needing to buy buckets for the 250 households that are not composting at this point, correct?
No.
I think we're like
get
45%.
charged.
That's what 45% of 413 is about 250.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
get charged
55%.
for every family who uses the bucket, who uses the service. So
Right.
they're only supposed to use the service if they have the bucket. But if they use the service, we get charged some amount per house.
Right. So, I mean, the worst case scenario is if we gave everyone a bucket and it doesn't work, we can always just sort of, say, look, it's what's 16, I think isn't it like $20 a bucket or something like that? For some reason, $16 comes to mind. So it's 250 times 20 is $5,000 of buckets that goes out. Okay. And then we start paying the monthly service for those people. And let's say worst case scenario, half the buckets are not being used. So we have an awareness campaign. We say, please let us know if you're not using the bucket because we'll stop your service or something like that. And then we've spent $5,000, which is not a whole lot of money for our town, to disperse the buckets, but then half of these people are not using them. That's still a win because we've gotten, 125 new residents to compost. Wouldn't you say?
I'm totally with support of it. I just wanted to make sure we're the implication for cost wise. And the town has to have contingencies. I don't think they have can say no more composting, can they? And I think that they are, I don't think that they could be against more composting, happening in the town,
Right.
even though it has cost implications. It goes against what their, the town's decision to go composting was.
So why don't we just recommend to the town that they distribute buckets for everybody else in the town and start paying for everybody. And we're going to do like a 6-month, or not even say, I mean, internally we'll revisit it after 6 months. And we'll have a survey or something like that. We'll do a survey. We'll have an awareness campaign with some people. We'll do a Zoom call here. We'll invite a composting expert to speak to the town, and people can tap in and ask questions and do it that way.
I like it.
Okay. Any other comments about that? Okay. You're
What I
happy?
have right now is the Environment Committee recommends that the town distribute buckets to every household and start paying for every family to participate.
Mhm.
Not for every pay for all households who choose to participate.
Well, I
Forget-
mean, as opposed to just paying for everybody at first, and then the town would then we could recommend that the town revisits in 6 months' time with a survey to say, are you using it, or something like that? At which point they could stop the service to X amount of houses, as opposed to requiring them to say we want the service. I'd rather just sort of push the service on everybody,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
you know what I mean, then let everyone try it and see and have the bucket in their life and see how that works out, as opposed to then make a decision before not even knowing what the behavior is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm support. That's a good point.
So how, I suppose that the people that are composting now are the early adopters, and some portion of the ones that haven't adopted this behavior are not going to. And if we distribute the buckets to everybody, and then half of them don't want it or don't use it, we've created quite a lot of plastic trash. Um, so I'm kind of wondering, is there, so, for the point that Anjali made about awareness, is there some way to get people to reveal their demand for the service without sending them the buckets first? Or are we hopeful that most of the buckets will be used if they are provided?
Well, you can never tell what people's behavior is. So the question is the bucket of, I think the bucket could possibly be a catalyst for people to be activated or engaged in a new behavior of composting. And to
I think
be
that's true, but what share of them? I doubt that we're going to get 100%. Right? It could
right.
be,
So the question
and
is,
maybe the ones that are interested in composting are already doing it. I mean, it is a bit of a change in your behavior, right? Because suddenly you're not putting the trash where you used to put it. You're putting it inside in a little canister, which you might also have to go outside and buy, and then you're putting that outside every so often into the green bucket.
all I know is that having been in the climate activism world where the impossible seems impossible, I feel like there's been a lot of new behaviors in our world, even though we're still pointing in the wrong direction. We have changed a lot of behavior that 5 years ago didn't even see conceivable. So I feel very positive that even people who are against composting can change their tune fairly quickly. I
Yeah.
don't think this is like
No, if we're optimistic about that, then I think we should go ahead and just do it, to everybody, and then we can see,
I mean,
where that
it's
leads
just
us.
throwing buckets, yes, it is plastic trash and, it'd be great, but we're also, we're by doing it, we're introducing an opportunity for a much more sustainable town
Yeah.
at the
Okay.
risk of producing more plastic, but we're producing a lot of plastic as it is now in our recycle buckets, a lot more than 250 buckets. So,
Does anybody remember when we first started recycling in the town with the big bins? Um, were they, I imagine everybody didn't start using them immediately, that some people were resistant.
oh yeah,
So, and maybe now everybody does it.
completely. I mean, the beginning for me, I mean, our blue bucket was just barely filled, and now it's much more filled, and our landfill, I have like 2 or 3 shopping bags, Safeway paper bags of landfill every week for our family. I mean, it's like very minimal compared to the past. So that's my personal experience, but okay. So it seems like we'll recommend, like you said, Ralph, that
I've added a sentence: at the end of 6 months, we would stop the service for people who choose not to participate.
okay. That sounds like a good option.
I would recommend also, Barton, that you run this by uh,
Robin.
Robin. Thank you, because if he's not for it, then it won't get through the council. And if he sees any red flags in what we have, it
Yes.
would be better to have him help us to make it
Hold
acceptable.
it. Robin's on 1 second. Let me just see something here. Just trying to get in actually. That's sort of that's sort of weird. Yeah, let me just, I'll send him a, 1 second, guys. It's odd that he maybe just didn't check his email. Okay. Yes, I'll do that, Robin. I mean, Ralph. Okay.
Okay. And if you
Sorry.
need to reword it, just send us something and see if we'll
Okay.
go for the new wording.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll word it from what you just said, and I'll send it out to you guys to just okay it. But why don't we just make a motion and second it and move on, if we want to do that? Okay,
Would you like me to read it one more time, the whole thing?
that would be great.
The Environment Committee recommends that the town distribute buckets to every household and start paying for every family to participate. At the end of 6 months, we would stop the service for people who choose not to participate.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Great. Okay. All right, moving on. I'm going to give you a bee update. The bees are in hibernation. Elizabeth Harris, our beekeeper, has asked that we add mulch to the inside the apiary to sort of stop with the weeds. So these guys from the maintenance crew of the town are going to add like 2 to 3 inches of wood chips to that space. Unfortunately, there are 2 like apiary hotels. One of them actually died. The bee colony died, but the other one is safe and alive, but hibernating. Robin. Hi.
What happened?
I'm so sorry. I did send you a new link on an email like about the beginning of the hour, but maybe it just didn't get through to you.
It did not get through.
I really apologize. Let me just check it's really odd.
Well, let me put through my official liaison role. And what you really should have done was requested a link from Matt, have it appear in the town announcements. And that way the link is available to everybody.
Yeah.
And it's the link coming from Matt, which means you're not responsible for any dud links or anything like that. So please do that in the future. All right.
Okay. I will do that. I mean, in the past I give the link to him to put in the announcement, but I think in the future I'm just gonna let him create the link because for some reason I'm having a lot of bad luck. So I apologize. I had my phone here, but I did not have the ringer on. And for some reason, when I sent out the new link, for some reason, were not on that new link. So I really apologize, Robin. Can I just give you a quick update what we've been talking about, just so that
Sure. Go ahead.
I really do apologize. That's my bad. So here is the agenda. For those, obviously, Robin is our council member and he is our liaison. So at the top, we approved the minutes. We talked in the second bullet, we just talked about the success of the Montgomery County ban, just a discussion and celebration. The third bullet about the solar panels. It was just a sort of a celebration discussion about how we're happy with the solar panels being on the town roof, and that we're hoping to, that the town council will consider the pool as the next project. And that I also spoke to Matt about, whether he thought that was a possibility, and he thinks that it could be wrapped into the new construction going on, the renovation, but that's just sort of a thought. So it would be great. We already made the recommendation to add panels to that, to the pool, and obviously it's in your hands, Robin, and the rest of the town council to consider that. And then the next item, we just talked about the street light update, that the first phase is pretty much finished on Cumberland and Dorset, plus or minus. And from our comments, people just basically said that you notice it's just a tiny bit less bright, but it's still illuminating nicely, and we're pleased with it. I don't know do you know when the next two phases are happening, or is it all happening within a 12-month period? Robin?
It's all happening within a 12-month period. And the next one should be in the next couple of months, I believe, actually. They go through in 3 phases. They have to get clearance for each one separately. That's all. It's a cumbersome process, but that's Pepco.
Yeah. So, but that's going through, sorry?
It's also Pepco that they made mistakes, of course, in the first installation and ran out of bulbs and stuck 100-watt bulbs in instead, as you heard, of course.
Yeah, and in the top of Cumberland, they did that.
Right.
Near the school. I'm not sure whether that has been corrected yet, but hopefully.
Yeah, neither am I, actually. It is going to be corrected. I don't know if it's been corrected yet.
Yeah, and then we spoke in the next item about pool composting, and Dave mentioned that he's going to contact the pool committee to make sure that they're on board with the idea of requiring composting at the pool.
Sure.
Before we make a recommendation, just so that we don't like step on their feet, and they're on board.
Right. Yeah, as you're going through it, I'll just add the gas-powered leaf blower ban success in Montgomery County. There's also some delegates in the State House now trying to get a statewide ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. So they're working on that.
Linda Foley, isn't she the one leading that project?
Leading it, yes.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Someone asked whether or not, is it all of Montgomery County, or are the farms in Montgomery County, do they have an exemption or not? I can't remember that detail, but maybe you do.
I think there is an exemption for the farms, yeah.
Yeah. And again, I just spoke, Dave spoke about the sulfuric acid, or the muriatic acid that happened, spilled, and how Dave mentioned that Matt informed Dave and myself that, and now everybody here on this call, that there was an issue with the stormwater should have been going to the drain as opposed to running out to the stream, and that's
it's the opposite. Is the drain in the pump room was flowing straight into the creek, and now it's been replumbed to go into the sewer.
Yeah.
So that's a very positive development. So,
well, yeah, I mean, right. That's the fix. The other thing is American Pool should have known better, but there should be some training involved there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just spoke about the next one, the bee update, that Elizabeth Harris, our beekeeper, requested that we put mulch into the apiary. So this week, the crew is going to add like 2 or 3 inches of wood chips into the space to help ward off the weeds inside there.
All right.
Crazy. And one of the apiaries, there's 2 hotels, as I call them. One of them, the bees died, but the other one is safe, and they're hibernating now. So it's safe to go inside the cage. If it's below 55 degrees, the bees don't come out anymore. So.
Barton, they're known as hives.
Hives. So
Just
each
hives. That's all they are. Is hives.
They're just called hives.
Just called hives.
Hives. Thank you. And then we spoke about this last thing. Did we do it? We've done 2 recommendations, or no. The first one was just approving the minutes. This one we just did was talking about composting, and we came to the conclusion, which we can revisit now that you're on our call, that we feel, if you don't mind, everybody summarizing for you, we feel that it'd be in the spirit of becoming more sustainable as a town. It's come to our attention that that landfill, a large percentage of landfill is compost material, and to reduce landfill, we really need to encourage more strongly that everybody composts. So towards that, I know that we've already recommended to the town council, and you came back and said it was too expensive. That's our recollection. So what we're thinking is, you know, Dave calculated that we have about 250 houses that are not composting presently, or, you know, plus or minus. So we thought, you know, if those buckets cost like $20 each, that's about a $5,000 investment just for the buckets. And the idea is, our recommendation would be to ask the town council to consider distributing those buckets and starting to pay for everybody. And then after a 6-month period, that we would do a survey and ask people, you know, do you want to continue it or not? And the idea behind it is, you know, if you give somebody a bucket and encourage them, and we might do also a Zoom session with like a professional composter who could talk and educate, that, you know, with the bucket in hand, people might start to change their behavior as opposed to just sort of thinking about it, you know. But you have a physical object in front of you, you know, then the kids are going to say, hey, Mom, why don't you use that thing instead of throwing it in the trash can? We have this bucket now. So we thought that we would ask the town council to consider spending the $5,000 plus or minus for the buckets to be distributed and starting the service, which is obviously an ongoing expense. But if people don't want it after 6 months, then they would have the opportunity to say, we're not doing it. And then we could reduce the expense, the added expense. So that's what our recommendation is. Do you have any comments about that, Robin?
Well, I have some thoughts. Yeah. I mean, so the compost crew, then you're telling them to go to every door in town at that point, right? If you've distributed buckets.
That's the hope.
But many of them would probably not have any compost in the bucket. I mean, so they wouldn't be putting the buckets out.
They wouldn't put the buckets on the street curb, right?
Yeah. All right. I mean, I'll write it up as a recommendation and submit it, you know, as you've done other recommendations, and we'll take it through and we'll see how the council feels about it. My issue is that the people who aren't composting probably have some reasons for not composting, whether it's that they're not good reasons, you know, they're not reasons that we think of as good, but they probably got their own reasons for it. And they may not be changed by that. But I mean, it's worth trying to see what happens, certainly.
I mean,
Robin, part of our thinking here was that in 6 months, you know, the first week, the first month, they might not use it at all. But having the bucket in their house, they might, having the bucket in their house, they might start slowly, but in 6 months, they might actually start really using it. And we think probably when we first started the recycling, people had these big bins, and maybe everybody didn't use them at first. But now everyone does.
Right. Well, I mean, go ahead. I mean, as I said, go ahead and put the recommendation through, and, you know, I will speak in favor of it. I think there are other ways to get there. That's all.
okay.
We do have a motion written up. Would you like to hear it?
Sure.
Go ahead.
The Environment Committee recommends that the town distribute buckets to every household and start paying for every family to participate. At the end of 6 months, we would stop the service for people who choose not to participate.
Okay. All right.
I think at this point we have basically caught up. So Robin, now you're completely caught up with what we've done in the meeting. And the next items are So let's see here. I'll just bring it up again. Is let's see, is banning gas powered weed whackers or all two-stroke engines again. That's one item. Before we started, I just wanted to say that, you know, Jeffrey has reached out to me a number of times. He wants our town to become a B city, to become a sustainable city, to become a dark sky committee, city. You know, these things are important from Jeffrey's perspective, because what happens is that then other towns look at us and say, hey, that's a, you know, dark sky city. We should be one too. So it helps people to piggyback, and that's a good thing. So as much as that's not like my focus, I just want to do things for our town. I think it's also, it's important for us to do that. And to that point, you know, I met with Anjali, who is on our call tonight, and she, even though she's not a member of our committee, she has offered to help, you know, help with the paperwork to make that happen. So I just wanted to share my appreciation for her willingness to help out. And that's why, one of the reasons why she's on the call. So I just wanted to give her a shout out. Anjali, do you want to just take like a couple minutes to just tell us who you are and just a little bit about your interest in helping out?
Thanks so much. Yeah, well, I think these are all very important causes. And I think it's very laudable that the town and the mayor want to take these on. And I certainly do, in principle, support the B City and the Dark Sky City. And I think there may be more containable projects than the Sustainable City. And going forwards, we may want to spell out in detail exactly what each of these things is, and bite off a little bit at a time to make it kind of more doable, and maybe not try to bite off more than we can chew. But having said that, yes, if we can parcel it into small pieces and see what kind of progress we could make and what it actually consists of, then, you know, I'd really like to help with some of that, and let's see how we can parse it out. I don't have very much to say in terms of, you know, who or what I am, except that I'm a resident of the town, and I think these causes are all very important. And, you know, I don't think that it's necessarily a case of whether you're a committee member or not. I think it's a question of how you can contribute, and, you know, we can put our heads together and see how to do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Jolly. So, okay, so the two main one other thing has to do with street trees, which Patty was going to talk about. She couldn't come this evening. She'll talk about it next week, but apparently there's been a whole approval system that's happened for planting new trees, town trees. Maybe you can speak to it, Robin, if you want to.
No, I let Patty do it.
Okay, let Patty do it. Okay, so the two outstanding items on this list are, one, banning the two-stroke engines, the weed whackers, and then also considering banning wood fireplaces for new homes, with an article that I shared with you. So let's start with the weed whacker, the two-stroke engine, and I open up for discussion. Does anyone want to share their thoughts about whether or not we should make a recommendation to the town council to, you know, obviously we all know that the two-stroke engines, which were the gas-powered leaf blowers, also, you know, produce horrible emissions. They're unregulated. They produce like a half an hour or an hour of use is the equivalent of driving a truck from Texas to Alaska. So it's, you know, it's pretty significant how our quality of life and our health is affected by pollution. And living in a city, a tree city like we do, you know, the air in our town is very different from like downtown DC. So we should continue to focus on ways to make the air in our town cleaner. So that's why I decided to bring it up, but I'd like to open up and hear your thoughts on the committee, and Robin as well.
Well, maybe I could say something since nobody else is speaking up. I'd like to see them banned, obviously, but the issue is that we only have a noise standard as our basis for regulating things. Anything to do with pollution other than noise is considered a state level or a national level item. We're preempted on those considerations. And it's kind of logical. Noise is local. That is, it doesn't spread very far, whereas other kinds of pollution in the air or in the water spread much further, and so they need broader bodies regulating them. So if we are going to ban gas-powered weed whackers, we need to argue it on the basis of noise.
Okay. So we just have to, I see, we can't, yeah. So do we need to give a reason if we decide we just want to ban something? I guess we need to have a reason, is what you're saying.
We sure do. Yes.
And what Rob is saying is basically what we heard, back about the leaf blowers.
Yeah,
The DC people, they heard the same thing,
right,
and about preemption and
right.
so, noise and then safety of the workers, and hearing and that type of stuff was what then became the requirement. Is the same issue associated with lawnmowers? Not so much. I hate to say, I of course got rid of my gas powered lawnmower a long time ago, and much happier. But I'm not sure that it's going to be a harder lift. Is there any action in the county or the state on this issue? Any other community is talking about doing this?
Well, the state of California is banning all gas powered landscaping equipment.
Yeah. And Linda Foley is trying to do something at the state level. I don't know how successful she's going to be, but she is trying, and that it includes lawnmowers and weed whackers. She's.
But again, that's at a state level.
That is at the state level, yeah. And they can use pollution and global warming and those things at the state level, which we can't at the municipal level.
Yeah, I don't think that the California ban is currently not in effect, right? It's proposed. I think Gavin Newsom signed it, and then they're going to develop the regulations.
It's been passed, but it's not in effect yet. It doesn't go into effect until like 2025 or something like that.
You talking about California?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why can't we? I mean, we know CO2 it causes greenhouse gases, but you're saying we can't use that since we've made a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty pledge and clean. We can't use that as like produces CO2, and therefore we don't want these objects in our town, Robin. Why can't
we can't? No.
We don't talk about it. Okay.
We are preempted on it is the actual reason, but it comes from the idea that CO2 does not just go local; it spreads.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so to this point, is there? I mean, we can't. Can we make an argument? Is this? Are we spinning wheels here, or is this worth our while to recommend banning weed whackers based on the noise?
But I mean, you could make the argument. I mean, the thing is that the electric weed whackers are quieter than the gas-powered weed whackers, and so it is a step towards a quieter neighborhood to go from one to the other. And the electric weed whackers now do just as good a job as gas-powered weed whackers.
Right.
They're probably similar price.
Pretty easy. Yeah. So, I mean, okay, so they're not as loud as gas powered leaf blowers, but they do produce noise, and they produce more noise than electric leaf blowers. Um, so do you guys feel that that's worth our while to make a recommendation to the town council to ban it based on that, or no? Ralph, you have some thoughts ruminating in your mind, or others?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see, is there a big categorical difference between leaf blowers and weed whackers? They sort of seem to belong in the same category as far as I can tell and make about the same amount of noise. So if we're making a case about one, why not make the case about another?
Right.
The lawnmowers may be a little trickier. I don't know if it's, I guess the properties are not that big, but uh, electric lawnmowers typically come with a cord, right? I guess there's some places where
They're battery
maybe
powered too.
yeah, but for big properties, is that going to be sufficient?
Well, for lawnmowers, the big ones that you sit in, the machines, they do exist and they make them, but they are very expensive, so they're not
Yeah.
very cost effective at this point. Hopefully, they will be shortly.
I think we might be early to do lawnmowers. You know, I use an electric lawnmower, but you know, all the companies, they're out there riding these things.
Yeah.
You know, I think the leaf blower thing has worked. I think the weed whacker thing can work. But to ask everyone to only hire lawn companies that don't ride tractors, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we're there yet.
I mean, well, I'll put up an alternative, which is I do know that Linda Foley is trying to draft legislation at the state level, and the committee could recommend a resolution supporting her efforts to ban, in fact, not just gas-powered leaf blowers at state level, but also weed whackers and lawnmowers. She would probably I'm sure she is going to put a delay on it the way council. So it would allow the battery-powered mowers to advance more in their capacity to do big yards and property.
I mean, part of me is always looking at the bigger picture. So for us to ban the weed whackers would give Linda Foley fuel to do her work, like we just did for the Montgomery County ban for the gas powered leaf blowers. So, you know, I see it as a way of, giving the larger state of Maryland, fuel to do their work by seeing that there's these small townships doing it. And I would tell my colleagues in other townships like Chevy Chase Village to do the same for the same reasons. So that's what I'm looking at when I'm having this conversation. That's why I would hope to do this now, even if it's not so effective originally. I feel like it could act as a piggybacking opportunity for the state or county. So what's your feeling, Dave? Do you think we should consider doing this?
I'm not opposed. I'm just not a big supporter at this moment.
Okay. And some of the reasons why you're not a big supporter?
I just think that's, I'm not sure I'd rather not be on the bleeding edge on it. I think that, I think there are issues. I think I think the preemption is a problem. And I think that, the leaf blowers are much louder than weed whackers. So I think that people, and I don't mind the weed whackers are not as much as I minded my next door neighbor's leaf blowers. So I think that the anger people had about the leaf blowers is probably not as heightened, about, the
Weed
weed
whackers.
whackers. So I'm just not 100% convinced.
Mhm.
I don't think it's nearly the problem that leaf blowers were. However, it's not nearly the expense. All the landscape companies, if they are following the rules, they have the leaf blowers, they have the batteries, and they aren't going to be out there with 3 or 5 weed whackers at the same time. They might have one. Um, so I while we were talking, I wrote up a very quick motion. Um, the Environment Committee recommends that the town add weed whackers to our existing ban on leaf blowers beginning on January 1st, 2025.
Mhm.
It seems modest, but easily done.
Yeah, I support that recommendation. I mean, I don't really think we're putting anybody out by doing it. It's a natural extension of all the transition because people have the batteries already. So it's just, and it's not an expensive item.
Are we sure they have the batteries? I'm just and I'm just being devil's advocate here. I'm not necessarily trying to be argumentative. My it seems that the batteries that are for the leaf blowers are essentially like the backpacks, and I think that they are probably configured to be associated with the size of the backpacks that people are going to be wearing, as opposed to the weed whackers. I don't know if you have the same configuration. For my own purpose, I have bought into the Ryobi,
Right.
battery, lawnmowers, weed whacker, chainsaw, and leaf blower, all use the same battery pack.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the same for the commercial level.
Well, I think there's a bit of yes and there's a bit of no to your, so it goes both ways. I think you just gave an example of when it does work and I know that the backpacks are these bigger things that are not hooking into the weed whackers. So, but even said that, the item of a weed whacker is a pretty inexpensive item. It's only like $100, these guys. So it's not like a major investment. So Ivar, do you have any comments?
No, I don't have a comment. Other than that, I think it makes sense to extend to weed whackers. I think they make a lot of noise. I'm wondering. I mean, so I have a weed whacker. I don't have one here, but I have one in Norway, and it plugs into the you know
Outlet.
the outlet with the cord. Maybe not that practical, but you get then the full power of your. I say it's not like sort of you don't have to carry around the battery pack.
Yeah, plugging is not a big deal. I mean, I plug around in my property and use the blower, so it's not, our landscapers do that. He's a commercial guy and he plugs in. So I don't think it's a big deal personally. Okay, it seems like Dave is the only one that has concerns about this of the four
And it's not strong concerns. It's more reticence.
reticence.
Yeah, I support the motion. It's just you need a rationale for the motion, which has to be noise. As I said, you could explain it in terms of noise. But I
Okay,
see them banned too.
so Ralph, I guess before you restate it, the same thing that you said, but you'd say for the same reasons that we banned the leaf blower, i.e. sound, we would like to extend it for the weed whacker. That would be the motion if you did that. But before we did that, we still need to have everybody feeling comfortable about it. So I know you, Dave, I want to be respectful of your thoughts. I know you're hesitant. And if that's what it is, we can wait for another time. or not?
No, let's have the vote. Like I said, I'm not opposed. I'm just not a big support. I'm not 100%.
Mhm. Okay. Well, if that's the way you feel, and again, I want to be respectful of everybody's feelings. Ralph, why don't you give it another go?
For the same reasons that we for the same reasons that the town banned weed whackers, the Environment Committee recommends that we add, oh God. I don't have the sentence ready, but I think I'm not gonna change it around. I mean, if people are happy with all the thoughts, I'll put them together into a sentence.
Why don't you just give it a go, even if it's a little bit sloppy, and you can tighten it up
The
offline.
Environment Committee recommends that the town add weed whackers to our existing ban on leaf blowers
Gas powered.
for the same reasons. Or maybe I don't put it all in one sentence.
To reduce noise levels further in the town.
To further, good. Okay.
You need gas powered in there.
Yeah, gas powered leaf blower.
Okay.
We have not yet banned all leaf blowers, although I'd be happy to do that.
Very happy. Another subject.
Mhm.
Town add gas powered weed whackers to our existing ban on gas powered leaf blowers for the purpose of reducing noise. The ban would commence on January 1st, 2025.
Okay. Thank you, Ralph.
And the town might make it a year later, which they did with the leaf blowers, but with that.
That's up to them. Okay. Do we have anyone here who will second that motion? Thank you, Ivar. Okay, and all in favor, please raise your hand if you agree. Say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Excellent. Okay, so we have a recommendation for the weed whackers. So we have one other item tonight that we haven't talked about, which has to do with banning wood fireplaces for new homes. It's now 9:15. We're past our hour. We went a little bit more because I didn't see my phone message from Robin, so we spent a little time bringing Robin back up to speed. Shall we continue, or should we just call it a day and let's just push this item to the next meeting? And the second part of the question is, does anyone have any other items that they want to bring up for the next session too? I open it up to comments.
I say we put it off. We're not going to make a motion tonight. We've already talked about it at past meetings. Let's just let it be for now.
Yeah, and just think about it, at least in terms of preemption again. What is it that's bad about wood burning fireplaces? Does it fall within the town's mandate to regulate that? That's the question.
Gotcha. That's a problem, you're saying.
It may be.
Okay. How can we investigate that, Robin? I guess somebody can do that. We can do that off.
The issue is what kind of pollution is coming out of the fire. Smoke is local, probably, and if smoke is irritant, then you might be able to do that. But think it through.
Have a rationale. We get to set our own building codes.
Right, we do, but we have a reason for doing that based upon the character of the town. Is the logic there? And wood burning stoves, it's not the character of the town we're really talking about.
Having a smoke freak town.
Maybe.
maybe?
All I'm saying is think it through, that's all.
Okay, all right, so we'll do this next meeting. Does anyone have any other items that they want to talk about that to bring up that we should put on the agenda for next month? And also I can open up to public comments on Jolly if you want to, if you have any other items that you know, are a concern to you or your neighbors that you've heard from, you're welcome to share some comments, and after that, we'll bring this meeting to a close.
Thanks, I'm good for now. I'm just very appreciative of being allowed to participate. No more from me.
Glad you were here.
Thank you.
Very much so. Okay. Anybody else comments? It's great to see everybody here. Robin, again, I apologize. I did speak about you a number of times during the meeting, wondering where you were. And so, you know, when I get into a meeting, I'm like, I'm not looking at my phone anymore. So I apologize, but I will make that correction. For the future, I'll have Matt just set us up just so I don't have to be stressed about why my link doesn't work, which has happened numerous times. And I still don't know why, but whatever.
All right.
Okay, guys, have a nice evening.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.